Anybody hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, I haven't done. I'm not very good at this. I'm just checking it out. Thank you.
Let's get started.
I think that would be super helpful.
Maybe that's the question too.
A long year.
It's not even that you can build affordable housing. The top 10 lowest districts, there's a speed process to get past all of the roadblocks. It's not that you can build
Did
it.
it pass?
It's just, not that it'll get built, it's just that it'll take.
They just have seen the I'm pretty far away from Napa because I live in the south. By the position we had,
Oh.
they actually, I didn't, and then our notes. And when Lincoln was here, was it Lincoln?
Voted on when we voted on
I wasn't,
he came and he had some.
no, I've been.
He finally.
I was been here, but I also realized, also just following the San Francisco to get there early.
How are you?
And I sent it out to everybody I know. Someone
Get the.
right now.
Great.
You would sit down.
No, I'm so mad.
Spirited.
We've been training people about all those.
Lincoln came, Lincoln.
Calling this meeting to order, the November 2025 general membership meeting of the Independent Neighborhood Democrat. James Campbell, president. We say in every meeting, the leadership of the Independent Neighborhood Democrats welcome on topics from members of the community, by candidates, amongst others. IND believes in the right to free political speech, but believes strongly that personal attacks, profanity, intimidating or threatening gestures or words, attempts to silence speakers, or similar inappropriate behaviors are unacceptable. Individuals engaging in such behavior will be asked to leave. As just a housekeeping note, also, if anyone's watching on Zoom, please make sure your Zoom name is your real name. If you can't do that, please just shoot us an email afterwards, so we can just cross-reference, make sure everything's good. And if you're watching on Facebook Live, please leave a comment so we know you're watching. Anyone in the audience, like in person, please just probably project your voice so the microphones in the ceiling can be heard online. With that, there's quite a bit that's been going on. Well, we won pretty massively this November. Everything from, of course, everything here in New York City, but also I was just up in Albany for the state party meeting. There was seats that were in like Saratoga County that had not been won in 30 years. Picked up. Georgia that flipped. They broke the supermajority in Mississippi state legislature. So, it's been a great year for us as a party. And of course, we got some very interesting news about 2 hours ago that our own Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez La Luchadora is going to be retiring. So certainly going to be a big this year on that. And then I'm not sure if anyone's heard, but 2 days ago, we began our September meeting with me announcing about how some friends of the club, including Bobby Carroll and Comptroller Brad Lander, were arrested outside an ICE facility. And charges will be dropped, provided that they keep their noses clean for 6 months.
Excuse me, we're having a problem downstairs getting people in. Has
Yes,
anybody had trouble?
Yes, we all have.
You all had trouble. All right, I gotta go get this fixed. Okay.
But however, Brad Lander has actually decided that if he will he'll actually try to go to go to trial. It'll help.
Make the first VP? I'm supposed to.
They're right now doing against immigrants in this country. So him on that. As was mentioned in our email, per our constitution, November is also when we'll be holding nominations for executive officers and executive board. Explanation.
Did you have trouble getting in?
Officers can are only nominated at October in the November meeting unless there are positions that have not been nominated for, in which case that can happen at January meeting. There's also going to be a December meeting, which we'll get to in a minute. Then executive board members that can be nominated at any of those meetings. To be an officer, you have to have been a member in good standing for 2 years. To be a board member, just 1 year. Any questions so far? Also, you can nominate yourself. Yeah, just make sure everyone knows. So with that, we'll just get the business first done. Nominations are now in order for president of Independent Neighborhood Democrats.
Nominate Julia.
I second that.
Julia,
I third it then.
and
Is somebody taking?
I am. And for Lynn also, because she does phenomenal minutes. Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Hearing none, nominations now closed. So Julia, like her. Yeah. Just so you know, everyone knows under Robert's rules, we call for nominations 3 times. First vice president. Karen.
I nominate Matthew Fairley.
And also, I'm supposed to ask if a person accepts if I've spoken to Julia already. Matt, do you accept the nomination?
Second.
Congratulations.
Second.
Any other nominations? The nominations, hearing none, nominations are closed. Okay. Second vice president.
I nominate Karen Johnson.
Karen, do you accept?
Oh, yes.
Second. Third.
Fourth.
Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? No nominations, hearing none, Karen, okay. Also just a side note for everyone, I can, since I am term limited, that's why you're not hearing my name. But I will be president emeritus, to the ex officio voting board. The nominations are now in order for corresponding secretary.
Mike Holmberg.
Maya, do you accept?
Second. Third.
Are there any other nominations?
What, corresponding?
Yes.
Aileen Doherty?
Eileen, I know, she had spoken to me, it's,
She's here.
yes.
She's here.
I know.
I'm here.
Okay, okay. Any second, I'm sure it happened. Just to explain, we have precedent in IND from 2020 and 2021, we had co-treasurers. I've spoken to Eileen and Maya, they have agreed to be co-corresponding secretaries. So, this is under our rules. Are there any other nominations? Nominations, any other nominations? Nominations for corresponding secretary now closed. The nominations are now in order for recording secretary.
Nominate Lynn Hill.
Lynn, do you accept?
I do.
Second.
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 Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Hearing none, Lynn, has, okay, been nominated. See. Nominations are now in order for treasurer.
I nominate the awesome Vicky Eustace.
Vicky, do you accept? Is
I do.
there a second?
Jack.
Second.
Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Hearing none, nominations now are closed. No, nominations are in order for board member at large. We have 15 to 20 of them, so. Bart,
Okay, I nominate Ira Weinstock.
For what?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh,
I accept.
Second.
And
Karen,
Javid Kesselman.
yes, and Javid also told me that he accepts.
It's in Morocco. He accepts.
Texted me, and he sent a photo of him on a horse. So I'm a little jealous of him right now.
okay,
So in 48 hours, I'll be in Italy, so.
Why not a count?
Hey, miss, there's a hand up.
I
Al, you're. Oh, yeah.
want to know.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
What's going
I
on?
nominate Arthur Levy.
We can hear you.
All right, I nominate Arthur Levy.
Art, you accept?
Yes. Second.
Jason,
I nominate Greg Monty.
he told me he accepts.
I nominate Jason Shelley.
Thank you, Joan.
Welcome.
Accept.
Maya,
I
I nominate Ariel Emily.
Also Tony Sheep. That's-
That name,
Nominate Steve Bronstein.
Ira, David, Art, Greg, Jason, Hal, Ariel, Steve. Elmi, Sachs.
Thank you.
Nominated Hal.
Last name is Julia, their sisters.
After Ariel, it's Steve. Yes.
People who are getting married. Nominate Joan. Ariel and Javed are engaged.
Nominate John Millman.
I second that.
Kenneth.
except twice.
I nominate Art.
Art's also nominated.
I missed it, sorry.
Nominate Alyssa?
Jan?
Kenneth.
Bianco.
I nominate Hal. Was she already nominated?
Jesus, does anybody listen?
I second.
Okay.
I accept.
Roberts was here and have a second, but it's done for.
Nominate Cheryl Cook.
Any other nominations?
You can
You
self-nominate.
can also nominate yourself.
Can I ask a question? Is there anybody else who has not been nominated who would like to be?
It's open, whoever.
Nominate yourself, and also you can do it at our December and January meetings.
Do we know Susanna wants to be on the board? Cause I'd nominate her. Susanna.
Anna.
Yes.
Second.
Nominate Danielle.
I'm not sure. I'll.
I'm sure either, but put her in.
Second.
Sorry.
Does Bridget want to be on it?
You will reluctantly accept.
Bridget Farrell then. No relation to you though, right?
Absolutely not.
Marnie,
Any other nominations?
give me points.
Any other nominations? Okay, nominations are now closed. Okay, so Julia present, Matt first VP, Karen second VP, Maya and Eileen for corresponding secretary, Lynn recording secretary, Vicky treasurer, board member at large, Ira Bobbit, Art, Greg, Jason Hal, Ariel, Steve, Joan, Alyssa, Jan, Cheryl, Susanna, maybe Danielle. That's anyone I missed.
Steve?
But up
Steve,
maximum
I'm in.
20.
What? I'm in.
Currently. 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, exactly 15.
Is Steve on the list?
Steve is on the list.
Thank you, Vicky.
Yeah, just making sure.
And also, as I said, we can do nominations in December and January. Oh, out of the way, now gets the interesting stuff. We have been joined very nicely by our good district attorney, who just got reelected. Like to invite him up, chat with us about what's going on, DA's office. Nice to see you.
I've always wanted to be behind the podium at a law school. Typically, I was afraid of the person behind the. I promise I won't call on anyone, but it's good to be here with IND. There are a lot of familiar faces, and quite honestly, this is a little bit of home. Because when I decided to run for district attorney, having been a career prosecutor, I had not gone to political clubs. And so this Democratic club supported me, helped me get on the ballot, knocked on doors for me, made phone calls for me, made sure I got on got on the petitions and gathered and got on. He did it for me again in 21. He did it again for me this year. So I am extremely grateful to all of you. I hope that you're proud of the work that you're seeing. I hope you're proud of the work that you're seeing in the DA's office, because it really is a district attorney's office that's quite remarkable and quite different than most DA's offices across this country. And when I came on board, I was sort of the first district attorney in New York City that was considered to be a progressive prosecutor, a prosecutor who said, that you could do two things at once. You could keep your community safe, but you could do it in fundamentally fair ways. And so many of you know, I was the first district attorney in New York State that completely stopped prosecuting marijuana crimes, helped launch a conviction review unit. My predecessor, Ken Thompson, since I've been district attorney just in the last several years, looked at a lot of wrongful convictions, and we've cleared people who were wrongfully convicted. We've cleared innocent people where the system has gotten it wrong. And we've continued to do other things. You know, I've supported many of the criminal justice reforms that made our system clearer. But I listened. I made sure that I continued to pay attention to some of the problems, like genuine concerns people had around the deep crime, things like really scams. So the district attorney's office has done a few remarkable things. I want you to understand where we're at. Brooklyn has never been safer in terms of violence. It's the lowest. Last year was the fewest number of shootings that they had, 24. We're doing better this year. But when I joined the DA's office, I wrote a letter to the district attorney at the time saying I was interested in joining the Brooklyn DA's office. I was a Puerto Rican kid living in East New York, and in my precinct, the 7-5 precinct, there were 128 people murdered in my one precinct in Brooklyn that year. And some of you know I don't talk about so puzzled. I lost the brother. This was a commitment that I made to drive down violence in Brooklyn. This year, we're nearing Thanksgiving. Fewer than, much fewer than 90 lost their lives in the entirety of the county, and only about 50 people. Think about what I'm saying. 50 people have lost their lives. It's remarkable. Look at another jurisdiction near our size, whether it's Philadelphia, Chicago, LA, they're in the 500s, high 350s. We're talking about less than 50 people lost our lives. So we've really driven crime. But we've also really focused in the things that make our justice system fair. And I've really tried to my platform to make sure I'm always advocating to make the system fair. Because when we do that, we actually get safer. So much of the concerns that residents have that things are spiraling, right? That things are spiraling. Have to come out and be really clear. Robberies are down, burglaries are down, hate crimes are down, but even the quality of life issues, retail theft, shoplifting, down over 20% Brooklyn this year. So again, a real understanding you can do all of these things that impact people's lives without reverting to mass arrest, big takedowns, being really smart on how we do this. And in Brooklyn, we do it very simply. Focus in on the people who are the most harmful, the people who cause the most hurt in our community. We build really sophisticated cases. And I've done that by focusing efforts on investigative bureaus, really look at these cases and really build evidence. We built a digital evidence lab to make sure that high 21st century prosecutions using technology, using all the stuff that's out there, social media, using internet, so that we can get it right in the courtroom. And it's really helped us because at the same time that it's allowed us to really make sure our ADAs have all the technology they need to win the cases that they're supposed to win, it's allowed us to stop wrongful convictions. At least 4 times in the last 2 years, there was a person on track, having been arrested, having been indicted, who was on track to go to trial on a case. And our digital evidence lab secured the evidence that really made sure that we understood they were not responsible, right? And that is really the crux of how you do this job fair. So I'm really proud of what we've accomplished in the county. We still remain a model for other DA's offices about the fairness approach. But it's more than that, right? It's more than street crime. You know, I built the first gender-based violence division in the country. One in 5 prosecutors only work on issues of domestic violence. It's still the number one crime in this county, nearly 10,000 cases a year. We've built a collateral consequences policy there to help protect immigrants who come into our justice system so they don't automatically get deported simply because they got arrested. Deals with the process. And this moment in time, I know this club care about what's right and what's wrong and what's happening at the federal level. Wrong. We had a big win a couple days ago, 2 days ago. The Northern District of New York threw out a case from the Trump administration on the Protect Our Court Act, saying that ICE could not go into state courthouses, arrest people who were there for child support, trying to go through the process. It only refers to the state courthouses, but it was a big win. And I wrote an amicus brief on that case with the Manhattan DA, challenging the policy, supporting the Attorney General in her pursuit of getting that case won. But one thing that some of you may not realize, the first lawsuit in this state that was filed was in 2017, was by me, Eric Gonzalez, sued the Trump administration to do the Protect Our Court. It wasn't a courthouse act yet, right? Because that only happened afterwards. I got 2020. I sued the Trump administration with the Legal Aid Society and other defender organizations saying that it was illegal to make these arrests in the courthouses. So what I'm telling all of you is that I'm going to continue to fight to protect our residents, treat them fairly, make sure we continue to enjoy some prosperity in terms of safety, but that we're never going to back down. I know you don't want us to back down. I know sometimes it feels futile what's happening in DC, but here on the ground, we can make sure that we continue to fight the good fights, and we're going to win the good fights. And so that's what I'm doing as your DA. I want to thank you. So many of you know I ran unopposed this term. I didn't have a primary general. And I think it's because New Yorkers see that I work really hard. I'm always out in the community. I'm always out. I don't come to the club a lot because the law does not allow me. I just want to be really clear. You're only allowed to come while you're in cycle and running for office, but otherwise DAs are precluded. It doesn't mean that I don't appreciate all that you do. I don't appreciate your voices. And if you have concerns, let me know, because I do believe Brooklyn is the best part of New York City. So thank you, Seamus, for having me.
Yes, thank you very much for coming here today, Mr. Gonzalez. Have you spoken with our incoming mayor, Mamdani, about whether or not there's a need to coordinate any of your policies with him?
Yes, we've spoken on 2 occasions prior to him being elected. Well, one time before he was elected, one time after he's been elected. And you know, his Department of Community Safety, that's really the big public safety initiative he has, is not too dissimilar to some of the things that I've been proposing, especially around mental health. And one of the things that you're going to see happen in Brooklyn, and the first district attorney's office in the state to pilot this, but outside of our arraignment part, Skimmerhorn Street, I'm in the process of having an RFP to spend some money, but I was able to get federal money to pilot a mental health van that's going to sit outside the arraignment part. You know, judges, there's some judge candidates here, and hello to all the judge candidates because they are really how this democracy works in our city. But judges are left with very limited resources, nights and weekends. That person may be arrested, is suffering from a mental health issue. The judge only has 2 options. Judge can either incarcerate the person if it's a bail eligible case and send them to Rikers, or they just tell them to walk out the door. Give them gate protection. What this mental health van is gonna do is give judges a third option in the county. It's gonna be a van staffed by doctors, including psychiatrists, and other health professionals, nurses. Prescribe medicines that help stabilize a person who runs the program will have respite housing for up to 3 days so that they can return safely back to what their father. So that judges have other options than simply sitting someone to Rikers or hoping to return to employ. We're gonna pilot it, have funding for 2 years, something that I came up with. While I'm thinking about how do we deal with this mental health, our city, the crisis, much of the violence you see, especially on our subways and other places where people are really struggling. Here in downtown Brooklyn. For a person who probably should not have been on the streets simply because he was really spiraling out of control. He had 5 to 6 arrests in a 4-month span, and I think this is another option. So what I was saying as it relates to that, there's a lot of ideas that I think coordinated. The biggest challenge that the public safety idea that the mayor-elect has is that it has to be filled out. Right? It's not gonna be effective on day 1 or day 2 or day 3. It's gonna take a period of time to build this out. And so how we bridge those gaps in the interim is gonna be really important. But I hope that answered your question. Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Go ahead, you.
There appears to be a move around the state to change the raise the age law again. I wonder your view of that move and the youth crime situation.
The youth crime is up. There is no significantly up. That's not misinformation. District Attorneys Association, which I'm a member, changes in law. I'm not completely in alignment with the District Attorneys Association on this issue. Because I think that there are interim measures that can be done to strengthen the raise the age without abandoning it or rolling back to make 16 and 17-year-olds enter the criminal justice system as a first measure. You know, and there's some things that can be done in that wonderful assembly member here. But there's certain things that can be done. As a definition, there was a standard, and I said this to the legislature when they were passing raise the age, which by the way I supported, which is don't create new legal standards. But they did create a new legal standard, which is extraordinary circumstances. Whenever you create a new legal standard, it's always hard for judges and for courts to exactly what it means. I think there may be some ability, without touching raise the age, for the legislature to go back and clarify what they meant by extraordinary circumstances. I've had conversations with judges about, is it a subjective standard or an objective standard? What do I mean by it? I don't want to get real legalistic on it, but sometimes a judge will be sitting in the youth hall, say, well, this kid is acting out, this kid may have a gun, this kid may have actually committed a violent crime, but it's not an extraordinary circumstance because in kids that are high risk, like this kid who's involved in gang life, this is what's happening. And I don't think that's what the legislature meant, that they meant an objective standard. Is this a kid in crisis? Is this a kid that could benefit going to family court? Or is this a kid that needs to be in our Supreme Court? So I think there's some clarification to be done. I think the assembly member can speak better than I can, but the money counties haven't been paid. There's money's hundreds of millions of dollars worth, hundreds of millions of dollars put in there, and most of it got left on the table. There are procurement issues. There's not enough program ideas. So I think there's a lot to do before you go back and you try to tinker with the actual law. I think you need to strengthen it, and I think there's a lot to be done. And quite honestly, you know, on the political side of this, which is not necessarily my role as the DA, don't think that we want to have Democrats fighting on this issue for the budget. We have a lot of things that we have to accomplish. So we'll see what the governor decides. Whether or not this goes into the budget bill, or this is something that she allows, the senators and assembly members to figure out about how they want to deal with this. But youth crime is up, and we should acknowledge that. That's not misinformation, and we have to figure it out. And today, I don't know if you saw, the DA in Queens had a takedown. It was a large takedown, 32 people, I think, and I think 9 of them were juveniles. So we know that there's violence being committed by this cohort of young people. How we approach it matters. I said it when I supported Raise the Age, and I'm going to end with this. I still believe treating children like children is important for us to do. But that doesn't mean that there's not things we can do to keep our community safe and also keep our children. So remember.
Thank you. I just want to point out A1327, which essentially legislates what it is you're suggesting doing with the van. So work with you on that. Because one of the big issues is there aren't very good choices, and they often give somebody a voucher and say, go make a phone call for that psych exam, and they're never gonna do that, right? They
So
don't have
we're
a
gonna have-
phone, they're seriously mentally ill. By the time they get an appointment, it's 3 or 4 weeks, they've already, exactly, so, that's a big issue, so thank you for that, I'm really happy to see you, doing that, and,
I just want to say, Assembly Member, because, obviously this is your club and people know you well, but Joanne has really put really thoughtful legislation that have been helpful to the FDA around guns and gun, and, like common sense things. I think, may not have been moved yet, but like, you should not be assault weapon, the license to have an assault weapon. It seems like such common sense things to me. Thank you for that. I'm always willing to work with you, and just a lot of bills that I really think make a lot of common sense to how we're going to the city. But our biggest challenge is mental health. It really is the biggest challenge that I see. I would estimate, 30 to 40% of the people who commit acts of violence have some kind of mental health issue.
Well, and a lot of it is post-COVID. It's not a surprise that COVID caused an increase in crime around the country, including here, but it's unfortunately coincided with the effective date of bail reform. And so a lot of people blame bail reform, and a lot of it has nothing to do with bail reform. It has to do with the antecedents to these actions, and our inability to address for what they are, to solve the real problem as opposed to even the problem. So that's a source of frustration for many of us, because people see correlation as causation, which, as you know from going to law school, it's not the same thing. So thank you. And one other question I had, and that is this sort of, rise in domestic violence and gender-based violence. Have you seen an increase since this year in January? Because there's so much talk now that is becoming more and more popular, that is also very gender-based and violent.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been Brooklyn's largest category of crime. It's always been. So I've been a prosecutor. Started my career as a sex crimes prosecutor at the Brooklyn DA's office. I've been in domestic violence as well as a prosecutor. It's always been a big problem in the county. What I see is that the numbers aren't growing necessarily, but the ability of abusers to torment their victims and survivors has grown with technology, right? So there's still the same number of violent interactions, but what I see more is how abusers are able to continuously track their victims, harass their victims, and make their lives impossible. I was the first DA in New York State guess 2 or 3 years ago now, the bill that was passed, about revenge porn. So I secured the first prosecution in the state. I didn't publicize it. I didn't put press out on it because I didn't want any attention paid to the survivor of that case. But the thing that users have in their arsenal today that they didn't have when I was prosecuting them 25 years ago. I know there's two. You can.
Come on.
Thank you for coming. I do have to put a plug in for my nephew who works for you in your office. He loves it. He was involved about a year ago to that horrific stabbing that took place at Dean and Smith while we were having dinner at Bar to Back, and the young man was coming back from the movies. And I'll go to Joanne's point, a man who was seriously very ill, who kept stabbing him, and we raced to the scene, and two of us, not me, because blood, I just fainted right out, but everybody else able to save him. And interestingly enough, my nephew Zaval, you brought him to trial, and he posted a $250,000 bond, got out and started stabbing again, and now he's behind bars, indefinitely waiting trial. My nephew's very impressed with the fact that heretofore, before at the DA's office, there wasn't as much involvement with the community, not the police necessarily, but the different Cobble Hill Association, Carol Gard, people that came out and would talk to some of you when you're on the scene. Recently, I've been very troubled by the rash of really horrific smashing of the windows of these cars. It seems to be a pattern in Borum Hill. It's been going on for weeks. I wondered if you knew if there was a pattern, if there was a gang involved, if there's any leads, but it has grown in proportion to the fact that this just never happened like this in our neighborhoods. And now it's happening with great regularity.
I would tell you that, my experience teaches me that when you see something like this that's unusual, that springs up, and it could be burglaries, it could be whatever, it's usually a person or persons that are behind it, and once you apprehend that person, things return to normal. I think in terms of the mischief, the police are vacillating between two theories, and one is whether or not someone is being paid to do this so that the windows will have to be repaired. We've seen those kind of scams before. Someone will break car windows or house windows because they're in the business of repairing glass, and there's often that, or whether or not this is something proved out that this was not the type of case that is blood. So they're not trying to steal the car. Looks like it's just vandalism, criminal mischief.
Right.
So, they have some working theories on it. Haven't been updated, in the last couple of days. Some video surveillance and stuff. So they're still trying to vacillate. Is this a professional sort of thing to get people that have to get their car windows repaired? Or is this something that is just purely some damaging property? Yes, sir. That's the last question. Back.
Due to the fact that our president wants to cut funding to New York City, does your office get any funding from the federal government? And if it does, what would the impact be?
It's a great question.
Thank you.
But you're on the board again, Ira.
Because we do, in particular around gender-based violence issues. So we have violence against women grant that helps us pay for our social workers. In our domestic violence bureau, we have approximately 30 social workers that help victims, and it's a longer conversation, change approach to domestic violence cases. In the old days, when I was a young assistant, the first person a DV victim spoke to was the prosecutor. Today, the first person they speak to is a trained social worker. And I think it makes a big difference with the trauma. And I think the social worker allows them to understand the rights that they have in a different way, because ADAs are more concerned about getting them to sign the paperwork and move forward with the case. So that those 30 slots are paid for by a federal grant. There's some other work around teen dating violence that's paid for by a federal grant. And then we have some federal grants that are working in our mental health courts that could be jeopardized. It does have the best mental health court in the city. So the answer is yes. I did get a commitment, at least for 1 year, from the governor, that if we lost our domestic violence funding, that she would figure out a way of making that up. But as of now, the grants have not been pulled, so we're still receiving these grants. So thank God. So thank you all. Thank you.
Question.
Thank you so much, District Attorney Gonzalez. I do know that our Congressman Dan Goldman is here. Hold on, is you up? Congressman, can you hear us? Congressman, you're muted.
Yep. Yeah, I got you.
Hey, Brent, how you doing? What is all yours, Congressman?
Thank you. Thanks. Good to see everybody, even though I am looking at you from behind. So I don't see a lot of faces, but it's great to be here with you. I'm beaming in from DC, where we're finishing up our first full week back after the shutdown. Obviously, the biggest news this week was the overwhelming passage of the bill to release the Epstein files. That is a real testament to the survivors who were so brave and so adamant in speaking up and speaking out, and ultimately Donald Trump could not stop his Republicans from opposing from signing on and voting for the release of the files anymore. He will still try through the Department of Justice, through the exceptions that are in the bill. So there's still a lot of work for us to do to keep the pressure on. But we will continue to do that. And I know from speaking to the survivors Tuesday night, they will continue to do that as well. Toward the end of the year now, we are focused on trying to finish the job that we started during the shutdown and getting the ACA tax credits extended. So millions of people don't lose their health care because the premiums are doubling or tripling. It will raise costs for everyone, all 22 plus million people on the exchange, if these tax cuts do expire, and it's yet another attack on the most vulnerable populations by Donald Trump. We saw his cruelty reach a new low in trying to use starvation as a political weapon by withholding SNAP benefits. It's just truly unconscionable that he would have done that. But unfortunately, at this point, it's not surprising. What continues to be surprising, although maybe it shouldn't be anymore, is that all of the Republicans seem to be totally fine with this cruelty and this lawlessness. But we thankfully, at least SNAP was funded for the full year, not just until January 30th. So we won't have to go through that again, but we are going to have to continue to work to not only get SNAP benefits restored from the big ugly bill, but make sure that we improve the program and make it easier for people to access it, and then to be able to get off it once they become fully self-sufficient and building their own lives. And then the last thing in the district that's really taking up a lot of our attention, and I'm sure yours as well, is this immigration dragnet that Donald Trump has descended upon New York and cities all over the country. We have turned our district office at 290 Broadway in Manhattan, right across from 26 Federal Plaza, into kind of a refuge for any families who've had anyone detained from the courthouse across the street. And we've got a whole sort of crisis reaction program for them. So spread the word if you know of anybody who certainly who is going to a court appearance. Let them know they can use our office before or after. And certainly please refer anyone and everyone to our office so that we can try to help in any way possible. What he's doing is very clear. He is trying to militarize ICE with excessive force and armored vehicles and all sorts of masked unidentified agents terrorizing communities. But it's really designed to incite violence so that he can then say, oh, well, there's so much violence, we have to send in the military. And so we can't let that message sink in. That is clearly what he is trying to do. And we are working on a number of different fronts to prevent him from sending the military into the city. And there's a good operation on that through the business community, through advocacy organizations, elected officials, City Hall, the NYPD. We've got a full court press going on. And so that's a sort of short version of the top issues right now. But I'm happy to take a couple questions if anyone has any.
Hi, Congressman. Thanks for joining us. The last month, the Senate passed the bipartisan Road to Housing Act. And so now it's before the House. I just want to know if you're familiar with that legislation, if you plan to support it, given the overwhelming support for housing reform in New York City with the recent election, and what you can be, or if you support it, what you'll be doing to advance its passage in the House.
Is this a Tim Scott bill?
And Elizabeth Warren.
And Elizabeth Warren, yeah. I remember looking at it and liking a lot of it. I didn't know that, frankly, I didn't know it was coming over. It's not on my committee, and oftentimes you don't realize that things are coming over until they hit the floor. But let me take a closer look and see. I generally, as you know, I was very involved and very active in pushing for LIHTC reform, the low income housing tax credit, which actually was passed in a bipartisan way in the last House and then did get through the big ugly bill, which would double the number of bonds available, which essentially doubles the number of projects that federal funding can help. And so I'm always looking for opportunities to incentivize housing growth and supply. I'll take a look at it just to be sure that I'm not that I know all the different parameters here, but generally speaking, I am fully supportive of coming up with different creative ways to build housing.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi, Congressman.
Make sure you speak up so everyone can hear.
Oh, okay. Hi, Congressman Maya here. Two very quick questions because there's things that happened in Congress yesterday and today. Yesterday, there was a hearing on this very broadly supported bill to ban congressional stock trading. It's something that I've been leading advocacy for on behalf of the Brennan Center. It's something that, as you know, is something that a lot of legislators from both parties have signed on to. Curious what your position is on the Magaziner and Chip Roy bill specifically, and in general efforts to enact more strict restrictions on congressional stock trading, given the conflict of interest and ethical considerations with that. And the second question I had was something that happened today. Today, President Trump accused several members of Congress of, quote, seditious acts punishable by death. Of course, this is not the first time that he's used inflammatory and incendiary language. And I was happy to see that Congress recently gave members monthly allowances for security, increased the representational allowance in the residential security program. But what else can Congress be doing to keep members like yourself, who I know have had threats and other issues at your office? What else can we be doing to keep electeds at every level safe and make sure that political violence isn't distorting lawmaking?
Yep, great questions. Thank you. As to the Restore Act, I was an early co-sponsor of it, and I'm a huge supporter of it. You know, as a former prosecutor and did some corruption cases, I have from the get-go been staunchly against members of Congress being able to trade individual stocks, even if it's simply just because of the appearance of a conflict of interest. Our Congress's approval numbers are low enough. We certainly don't need to have the public questioning whether or not members are acting in their own personal interests or in the interests of the public. And when I got into Congress, I personally did sell all of my individual stock, and I put my money in a blind trust as an example. But I am fully supportive of the bill. I think they did a very good job. I was helping behind the scenes to craft some of the provisions, and I'm fully on board and hope that it does get through. As to Donald Trump, you know, again, I could sit here and I could vent to you, as I'm sure many of you feel as well, that, you know, Donald Trump goes on national television the night of Charlie Kirk's murder before anyone has any idea who did it and accuses, quote, the radical left of, inciting political violence, and then turns around and starts telling his supporters, who he knows from January 6th will act upon his directions to commit violence, that the 6 Democrats who were in that video should be put to death. It is, I don't even have the words for it anymore. It is beyond the pale. But what really frustrates me, and I think what would really help to solve this, is, yes, we have more money now for security, and we can get more security. That is true. That is important. But I only saw one Republican say anything to rebuke Donald Trump today. Just one. The Speaker of the House doubled down on Donald Trump's complaint about the video and did not say anything in response to him threatening his colleagues with death. If these Republicans don't start putting guardrails around Donald Trump and leading by example and find a spine, then it doesn't matter how much security we have. Someone's going to get killed. And the crazy thing, which I don't, I don't expect them necessarily to care as much about me getting killed as them, because as we saw during the shutdown, they just clearly don't care about anyone other than, themselves and their buddies and their donors. But they're also going to be susceptible to increased political violence because of this rhetoric. And so it is just yet another example of how the Republicans in the House and the Senate have completely abdicated their job, their responsibility, their oath. And the best way to do this, to stop this, is for Republicans to stand up for what they do know to be right and are just too afraid to do it.
Last question, Matt?
Hi, Congressman, thank you. From your perspective, I'm the guy with the bald spot all the way on the left.
That doesn't narrow it down too much, Matt.
I know you'd love to be in the majority next fall, and I know we'd all love to put you and everyone else, the Democratic Party, in the majority. What policies do you think the party should be focusing on to make that a reality in the fall next year? Which policies do you think are the ones that are going to be the winners for us?
So I actually would take a step back. I think one of the problems that Democrats have had is focusing so much on policies themselves. And what I think we need to do is not only to, not only to make sure that we're being clear about the failures of this administration. And I don't, obviously, I focus a lot on democracy, the rule of law, and what's going on, and how He's just absolutely tearing our government apart. But even as to all of his promises about affordability and grocery prices, energy prices, costs, he's completely failed. And so we will have to point out that. But we are also going to have an affirmative message. To my mind, that affirmative message does not get into the weeds of policy, but gets back into a combination of what our values are, that we care about people, that we want to lift people up, that we want to make sure that in the richest country in the world, people have housing, they have food, and they have health care, and that we want to be focused on evening out the system. So we do need to make sure that we are making the super wealthy pay their fair share, and that we are being creative and effective in funding federal programs that help people access the American dream. And I really do believe that over the last number of years, led by Donald Trump, that the anger and the negativity and the cruelty has really worn on the American public. And what I hope we can do is make sure that we're addressing the issues that people around the country care about, which, as we've seen from the New York mayoral election, the presidential election last year, really is the pocketbook and kitchen table issues, but that we give people a positive vision and a positive hope, and frankly, just a positive view of the possibilities of this country, which remain unique among all countries in the world. And so part of what I think we did wrong last time was really diving into the weeds of a lot of these policies. We have to address the areas, we have to talk about the areas that we need to fix. But I think that getting into the details of the policy is ultimately counterproductive.
Thank you so much, Congressman.
Policies can become counterproductive when.
All right, I appreciate the time. I'm sorry that it's 8. I got to run. But it's great to see you. I hope to visit in person next time. Sorry I had to zoom in, but appreciate all the work that all of you do, and we've got a lot of work ahead of us over the next year, because as Matt just pointed out, this is not optional. We have to take back the majority. Thanks a lot.
So actually, Congressman Goldman had mentioned the immigrant dragnet. Just last weekend, Jason and I attended the we did a
Know your rights.
What?
Know your
rights. Yeah, we went down through a bunch of stores from Douglas down to President, along with other a lot of other volunteers. It's being organized by Councilmember Ressler, spearheaded by Councilmember Hanif, and a few other groups and leaders. And we got it was all just trying to teach businesses about what options they have. Could there be icebreakers? It was uniformly phenomenal responses. Great to see that the community wants to fight back. And when there's like additional ones happening, we will definitely share that. And a few people actually stopped Jason and I on the street and said, thank you so much for helping with that. And props to Vicky for pointing it out to us. So and of course, as been mentioned, also mentioned that Judge Chevelle Mind, I think she's still on, not sure. She's here, as well was Judge Linda Wilson, so I just want to recognize them. And just a reminder, because I see a few names here, your Zoom name does not match your real name, please change it so we know yes, you're here. And as was mentioned, our Assemblywoman Joanne Simons here. If you have any things to report, or it's cool. You're on break for all purposes, until January.
Break?
Oh. Well, in legislative sessions, what I'm saying. Yeah, you called me, you got me there. Okay.
They're never on break.
That is true. I wish I had a 10th of your energy.
So I'll take this. That's students. So what have we been doing other than meeting every night about some community issue? This morning we did a press conference on the repeal of the 100-foot rule, encouraging the governor to sign that. In reworking the numbers with more recent data, we would save New York ratepayers almost $600 million by fine. And that makes a big difference because ratepayers are paying through the nose already. And the utilities have asked for additional rate hikes. So even though we beat back one part of a requested rate, I think it's $100 on higher rates, they're likely to be able to put that through in a different way in a new. And among the things that is included in the more recent rate hike request were actual returns to shareholders, so that not only are we paying more for the delivery charges for replacing and repairing fossil fuel infrastructure, but also directly supporting additional shareholder value. So it's good if you're a shareholder, it's not great if you're a ratepayer. And so one way that we can sort of change what's happening is to stop paying for other people who are adding gas lines, gas hookups, and let them pay for it themselves, which is all the bill does. Doesn't say you can't get it, just says pay for it yourself. And that would save ratepayers a lot of money, subsidizing that years and years. So we're trying to get that signed. I think I have one other bill I'm trying to get signed. And then I'm working on a couple of other things, including a bill that would fill in. We passed the Climate Superfund Act last year, and that's been signed, and the chapter amendment was signed. And I'm looking at a bill that would make it sort of close the loop on that, so that a polluter who is doing cleanup can't pass along the cost of the cleanup to the ratepayers, which is what's happening in Gowanus. National Grid is socializing the cost of that, which means passing it along to the ratepayers. And so now you're paying for that which is killing you. So I'm going to be working on that as well. I've obviously been working on a lot of the community and dyslexia issues as well, continuing to work on that. In Somos, we did a screening of this documentary, which I actually have some cards for. They're doing another screening tonight with a panel following up on that. And we're really moving forward on that in a way that is very constructive in higher ed. But, when you're trying to change the world, it doesn't help. But we are seeing, making a lot of progress in that. So the work continues.
I'm just really curious how the federal government's closing of the Department of Education might impact all of our state.
Impact everybody's
What
states.
you're thinking about there, how
what they're doing is breaking it up and because they don't know what they're doing, number one. So they've decided that some of these things go to the Department of Labor and some go to HHS, anything disability related, except for the Office of Special Education, they are keeping together at the moment. We go to Health and Human Services. What the heck does Health and Human Services know about half of this? Because the issue isn't about do you have a disability, it's what do you do about it in the classroom? How do you educate children? And HHS is under Bobby Kennedy Jr., who clearly doesn't know anything about anything. So I don't trust him with education at all. But this is, he campaigned on this. So far, the courts have not, the court has allowed them to do some of this, but they've also not allowed them to do other aspects of this. I think that there will be additional challenges now to this, but every state will be impacted. What the Trump administration doesn't understand is that education primarily is state. The feds put in certain money and establish certain sorts of standards and criteria. Thou shalt educate children with disabilities, for example, and you need to do at least this much, right? But beyond that, education is really a state function, right? So a lot of it is money and particular programming, specific issues, just like, when they were, DOGE was going through and firing federal workers, not realizing that a lot of federal workers and people, the salaries are being paid to people who are supporting law enforcement. They're supposed to be about law enforcement, but law enforcement gets a lot of money from the federal government to do law enforcement, right? And so they were actually, by the way, defunding the police in that respect. And so part of the problem is that a lot of people do not know what the department does. It's not really that big a department. You would think for all the hullabaloo, it would be like a department's not really. But they clearly do not care about civil rights. They do not care about children. They do not care about education. They would like people to be sick and stupid because it's easier to control them. And so, this is how we have to, keep all of those things in mind when we fight back. But
It's
I'm
like
very
it's money
concerned about
that's gonna, like,
Yeah.
what might trickle down to us is lots of money.
The Department of Education, State Department of Education will lose, they get federal money and not all the money is gone, right? It's just the department. So it's the coordination and the infrastructure. If there's something that goes wrong or somebody needs to deal with something, there's nobody there to deal with it, right? But over about 20% of the state's education budget is federal. We have whole departments in the State Department of Education that are federally funded. And so that's a big pressure on the state because none of the states can make up the difference. We're a donor state, right? So we pay more in federal tax than the federal government anyway. But we can't make up the difference. We don't have reserves to do that. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to add that the Department of Education has also proposed removing advanced nursing degrees,
yeah.
audiology, all these incredible things from professional designation, meaning that people who want to pursue those degrees cannot get federal student loans.
And the big ugly bill had dramatic changes into federal student loans.
Yeah.
In terms of how much you had to pay back, how quickly, what it will result in is people not going to college. Because they have declared war on liberal arts and on professional degrees, they want everybody to become a plumber, right? Now we need plumbers and we need tradesmen. But, if you have to pay your student loans back within a certain period of time, you're gonna go bankrupt because the bankruptcy code no longer protects people who default on students. I haven't since Reagan. Yes.
Again, due to the fact that the occupant of the White House, as I call him, is threatening New York City. Now, 12% of the city's budget comes from Uncle Sam. Are there any contingency plans in Albany to help the city in case Donald Trump decides to hit us? Because the problem that I'm finding out is New York State may have a deficit.
Well, yes, we often do. So here's the thing, right now, they anticipate that we're about 4 billion short, right? Now, what happens often, thank God, so far, is that, and we haven't been briefed on any of this by the investment, for example, that advised the state. But, and we will later on this month, at least the Ways and Means Committee. But we start, the tax year ends April 30th. And so the tax receipts, we will find out more about those tax receipts. And once the year changes and we go back into session. So during that whole budget process, we'll be finding out more about what our receipts are and how much in a hole the state may be, right? But clearly, we are gonna have to cut some things. There's no question that there are things that are gonna. The contingency plans, people are certainly having conversations. One of the challenges we have is we don't know what we're gonna do. So SNAP has been restored and will not be going away again in January, but the big ugly bill reduced the SNAP payments, right? We don't know precisely what those cuts to Medicaid will be. We don't know precisely what certain other cuts will be. So it's hard to plan for something you don't know what it is yet. Because they will be renegotiating this continuing resolution, right, back in January, this is gonna come up again. I mean, just in the health department alone, if we lose those Obamacare subsidies, 1.4 million people will see a significant increase in the cost of their health insurance. And about 400 will no longer have health insurance in New York State. So just the hit to the health budget is significant, but we don't really know what that's going to be. So everybody's like talking about it, and everybody's theorizing about what it might be and where it might be, et cetera, and trying very hard to make sure that we stay in a good enough odor to not. But we just don't have that. I would call for them.
Dancing now.
We're not asking you about the BQE or the DMC.
Keep us posted, Joanne.
Richard. We asked you tonight
Just that is a Brooklyn.
about insurance and how it's really hard to get your house insured.
Oh,
And, right, and this is, and it's a huge issue in Brownstone, Brooklyn. And the insurability at BMT, which is gonna be an issue, right? And what is the state doing about it? But I have no idea. You know, I'm not even on the insurance committee. I talked to the insurance chair. Andrew Gennardis was there. He is on the insurance committee in the Senate. And so I kind of punted to him and said he knew more than I did. So the guy says to me, "Are you gonna put this in your newsletter?" I said, "I don't tend to put in my newsletter that I don't know anything." So I find something out before I put in my newsletter. So if it's not in the next newsletter, it's because I don't know.
Looking.
And that just shows the Assemblywoman's humility, a politician who's willing to say that they don't know. It's so just to wrap things up, I also want to give a huge shout out to Maya. You know, we're doing a Thanksgiving food drive that she spearheaded for the St. Augustine.
For all the donations, I really appreciate it. And I'll be at St. Augustine St. Xavier's Church on Saturday from 12 to 5. Who wants to drop stuff off then? It's on 6th Avenue and Carroll Street.
6th Avenue and Carroll Street for everyone on Zoom. You have any more donations there? 12 to 5.
Oh, and you can also drop it off still at the Old Stone House tomorrow, 12 to 4.
Also announced 12 to 4 for anyone on or on me. Few housekeeping things for upcoming events. So as I sort of mentioned before, we're gonna actually have a December meeting. By the current count, of course, that number is about to skyrocket based on news from about 3 hours ago. There's about 24 candidates for just public office alone right next year. So we're gonna have, but it's so we'll have a meeting on December 18th. It'll be on Zoom because it's also during finals here at Brooklyn Law School. We want good guests, you know, not serve the our good law students here. December 6th, actually, and this is on our calendar, is hands-off training for Brooklyn. It's going to be in Windsor Terrace. Information is on our website and our calendar, our emails. And just two things. I only got the info about it this morning. I don't have full details, but just, you know, if you want to add to your calendar, FYIs. Our affiliate Howard's induction, it will be Thursday, January 29th at 6 p.m. here at Brooklyn Law School. And 1 week later is the induction of her wife, Judge Norma Jean Jennings, also a member. That'll be February 5th, also at Brooklyn Law School at 6. Is there any new business?
It was just to remind people, pay dues
Yes, don't forget to pay dues.
and pencil in, not for the date yet, but consider the holiday party coming up.
Are we considering certain dates?
It would also be good to announce the next board meeting and maybe invite people who have been nominated for new, that they should come as well?
Yeah, I'll just expand a little bit on what Joan said. So yes, our next board meeting actually is also, will be the December 4th, 7 PM. Information is on our website. It is open actually to any, member. You don't have to be on the board. You can actually just be a general member as long as you're in good standing. You can, come, listen, what happens, here, because we are supposed to be representing you. So any questions, feel free to reach out. And of course, highly encourage anyone who's been nominated for the e-board to jump on, get a feel for everything. Any other new business? Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your evening. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Those who can below.